For those who did want to hear me actually rant about Spider-Man and Batman, I'll actually get to it this week. Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is Game News and Week in Review, going over everything from the videos of the week, the news, all the stuff, topic of the week, which this week is Batman and Spider-Man. I have nothing I need to get to. I will make time, even if this video does run long, and based on the announcement we have, it may actually run long. We'll see how much we have to get to, and before we dive into it more, for those expecting the giveaway announcement, I decided not to do it in the Week in Review. I've already selected the giveaway winners, as I said already. Wednesday was the cutoff day, and we passed that, and so I already selected the giveaway winners, and at this point what I'll be doing is I will be announcing them probably later this week. I don't know exactly when. I'm guessing Thursday or Friday, but you can take a look. It's going to be a full video covering the giveaway winners, as well as just a general channel goals and update, that kind of thing, because I haven't done one in a while, and I think it's a good time to do that. So keep your eyes tuned, but if you missed the giant giveaway, I already have the giant giveaway, and it's too late to enter as of now, although I will be doing them in the future. It went very well, and I like the idea of continuing to do them because they're fun. Not on a monthly basis, but maybe on a quarterly basis. We'll see. I like the idea of doing some giant giveaway once a quarter and just having fun with it. In any case, let's go ahead. Although it does have a downside. It has a downside because the downside of it is the fact that my comment section gets so completely flooded with just giveaway comments that I get a little bit more half-hearted about responding. Because like you're commenting for a giveaway. A lot of them are very nice and genuine. A lot of them are actually more than just like a little smiley face or whatever. But it means I just get flooded and I get even further behind because I'm like, whatever, I'm behind. I'll get back to the comments after the giveaway. I've still been replying to comments a little less than I usually do. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into starting off with news. As usual, timestamps to every section down below in case you want to jump to any particular thing, as well as links to anything I cover. Starting off the bat with Professor Meg and Camp Co-op. This is something I mentioned briefly last week in the middle of the video, but I just want to get a little warning for those who are interested. Starting this Tuesday, I'm going to be going ahead and streaming on Twitch with Professor Meg. We're going to be playing through Gloomhaven. I don't know how far we'll get. The goal is to finish it all and then just see what games we potentially want to dive into next. This is a combination of Gloomhaven is fun, and I kind of want to explore Twitch, and so we're diving into that. If you are someone who explores Twitch, go ahead and follow, because, I mean, honestly, I'm completely new to Twitch. Completely. Like, I've been on Twitch streams, but that's about it. If there's something I should know from your perspective about what I should be doing or being mindful of, I'm open to it. Meg has done some Twitch before, so she's not walking in completely unaware. I'm walking in blind. I'll figure this out. For me, it's an opportunity to play a game and learn something new at the same time, so we'll see how that goes. Speaking of Professor Meg, she's also part of a group called the Boardvengers. The Boardvengers is a YouTube channel that started, I want to say, I mean, we could probably check, honestly. It started 4 months ago, it looks like. PAX Unplugged, and it's a grouping of like 4 or 5 people who are basically covering a variety of board games. I know some of them I haven't met in person yet, but there are a bunch of people covering board games in a variety of different ways, rotating different types of content. They have really solid thumbnails off the bat. Solid thumbnails, really impressed with them, but more importantly, for a 4-month-old channel, they recently spiked, getting a bunch of videos, a few videos that really hit solid numbers. They're 885 subscribers. If you've been following this channel long enough, you know that I do like pushing people over that edge. So if you're interested in seeing their content and giving them a shot, go ahead and check it out. Link down below, and then we can push them over 1,000, because that's the monetization level, which is always, it's pennies. When you hit 1,000 subs, we're talking about pennies here. We're not talking about a lot of money, but it's an emotional boost for a content creator to hit that milestone, to be like, I got it, I can start monetizing. It feels like a next step along your journey, which is why I love pushing people over, and because the content's actually pretty good. In general, it's a big prerequisite for me to actually recommend anyone on this channel. I have to like the content. From there, diving into, speaking of content, we'll have a bunch of content-related things. We have Quackalope and Devon Talks Tabletop. He did a video, and this was like 2 weeks ago, but highly recommend watching this. It's every Kickstarter Quackalope has ever backed, and if you're missing that, in that little bar over there, that's a 4.5-hour long video. That might sound like a commitment. It is. Throw it on in the background. I highly recommend watching it. Like, highly recommend watching it. Like, I did not plan on watching the whole thing. You get caught up in the journey. Now, I didn't watch it dedicated. I did stuff in the background, and it took me like 3 days to go through it, maybe more than that. But it's a really entertaining video. I really can't recommend it enough. It's worth checking out. It is a commitment, but it's a fascinating journey into Quackalope in general, into his history in the board game space, but also it's just darn entertaining. From there, speaking of Devon Talks Tabletop, Devon Talks Tabletop had a video on his channel, not buying games for 12 months. I did this with him over on his channel. That is my studio behind me because he was over here and we visited. Until I start visiting him, that will be the way it goes. But basically, he's not buying games for 12 months. Granted, he has the cheat that he does have access to games by being a content creator. Not necessarily a ton, but he does have access to them, and then through myself and Jesse. But in theory, he's not buying games. He's trying to hold back. And this is a 25-minute video, a much more reasonable time frame, in which you can check out just our conversation around it. I had a lot of fun with it. I enjoy being a troll to people I like. Not to people I don't like. People I don't like, it's not fun being a troll to them. But people I do like, that's always fun. Then, more collaboration stuff. We have I apologize for all the recommendations. Some weeks I have like one piece of news. Other weeks I just have a ton of stuff. I went ahead and did something with James Hudson at 718 subscribers. A little ambitious if we can get him over that edge there, but it is worth trying out. James Hudson over on his channel, before we get into my video with him, he covers a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, kind of from a publisher stance. I think it's very informational. I think it's worth subscribing. It's very, very good content. It's very informative. If you're looking for more than just your perspective, but you want to see it from another perspective, I highly recommend his channel. It's just good. It's just educational content. I like educational content in the board game space that I like, and in other spaces I like. The general channels that I enjoy following are often very educational channels, but I'm getting sidetracked now. This was a video preview versus review that I did with him, just having a conversation around the nature of previews and reviews, our biases towards and against them, and basically the fact that neither a preview nor a review, they're both inherently problematic in different ways. They both serve one function, but at the cost of being actually the other things that they're trying to be. It's very complicated. It's 40 minutes of complicated. It's a fun conversation. Obviously, I'm biased in that. And then from there, we also have the fact that Castle of Burgundy Special Edition is going to be launching May 25th, if I recall it correctly. It's down here somewhere in the date over here. We have, this is an update about dual layer player boards, about how they're handling that. 24th of May. May 24th at 5 p.m. CEST. I don't think that's EST, but at some point in the day. And 24th of May. Which means you can probably expect a Castle of Burgundy review coming from me, because I love that game, and it's a good time to get the content out on it now, because eyeballs will be looking for it. But if you missed it, Castle of Burgundy was my number 2 game of all time as of 2022, and I'm looking forward to this one. I'm looking forward. I'm definitely torn. I wonder how well they'll do as far as actually delivering a finally deluxeified game that really delivers on all fronts, but I'm optimistic, I guess. They're definitely doing a lot of collaboration with the audience and communicating with them about the different things and showing you the different aspects that they're going for. I like the system they have here, where they kind of have a dual layer board with an insert, so we'll see what happens in terms of the final implementation, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But May 24th, in case you wanted to find out or join the 30,000 people currently following this campaign. And from there, I believe, no wait, one more thing in the news category before we go into game news, although arguably Castle of Burgundy is game news, but it's kind of an update. It's adjacent. We have Hidden Leaders, and this specifically in terms of their update, they have an update where they're talking about the fact that they're getting board games for refugees. It's a live delivery table and a new project. There'll be a link in this over here to a GoFundMe campaign, basically trying to deliver some games to a bunch of refugees and trying to cover the cost of that. So, solid campaign for a good cause from what's it called? From BFF Games. They did Hidden Leaders, and yeah, I think it's a good cause. And with that, moving on to game news, starting off the bat with Terracotta Army. Terracotta Army, not the first time it's been announced. This is from Board and Dice, but basically their newest game in the, I don't know if it's officially the T-Series or not. It's got a T, so maybe it's adjacent to the T-Series, but Terracotta Army. I believe this is available for pre-order by game nerds already, released at Gen Con 2022, so we'll see if it's going to show up, around Gen Con, whenever the exact date for that is. Then from there, we have Evergreen. Evergreen from Horrible Guild. They have a video for this. I'll see if I can link to the video if I can find it, as opposed to this over here. The video made it look very compelling. It looked like a simple little point-scoring game, which you're trying to be mindful of hedges and trees and water and trying to plant in different ways. It looked like it could be okay and forgettable, also could be compelling. So I'm very intrigued. I like Horrible Guild in general, who originally named their company Horrible Games, before realizing that just didn't, it's a cute little pun, but when you're like, oh yeah, Horrible Games, it just doesn't roll off the tongue as you make that association time and time again. So they renamed the company Horrible Guild and kept the HG logo, which worked. I'm getting sidetracked. I don't know why. I mean, I know why, because that's what I do. From there we have Oltree. Oltree, Undead and Alive. Now, I don't think this is new. I just happen to be going through the process of diving back into Oltree so I can review it, and I caught that they have an Undead and Alive expansion coming. The reason that's very relevant to me is because Oltree is a game that I really enjoy. but I'm never going to replay one of the Chronicles. Oltree has a bunch of Chronicles you can play through, and so the base game, I believe, comes with 7 Chronicles. Once I'm done with those, I'm not going to dive back in. I like the game, but I don't like it enough to replay the same Chronicles. Spoiler to my review, I guess. And so I was happy to see that they have an expansion, Undead and Alive, coming, so I can dive into that one when that shows up, and we'll see. Again, it's a good game. It's a good game. We'll talk about it more in a review. Next up from there, we have Rise and Fall, and some of these things are a little cut off my screen here. I need to figure out a way to make it more consistent. Probably just shrinking the screen would have done that. Anyways, Rise and Fall. Rise and Fall is a game coming from the designer of a few games, including Archipelago, Dungeon Twister, Living Planet. That's Christoph Bollinger over there. So the game looked good. I don't have all the pictures I saw over here. The game looked intriguing. It should be coming to Kickstarter later this year. Looks fun. Looks fun, and it's from a designer who has a bunch of games under his belt. Next up, we have Floodgate, who's coming out with Sagrada Glory, the newest expansion in the Great Facades lineup. I believe this is the 3rd and final one in the Great Facades lineup, and then from there, they might have more content, but this is the last one in, well, that specific box series of expansions for Sagrada. Next up from there, we have a tab that wants to get permission before it shows it to me. Next up, we have Ravensburger announcing a new game called Lunar Outpost. Lunar Outpost is going to be an Alexa-enabled game, and I realize now that I said that, and I have the device right next to me, and now she's looking at me, waiting for a command. Kill all the humans. Nope, she's not going to do it. See? It's got programmed in. It's the whole, the law of robotics and all that. Can't kill humans, so she's not going to kill the humans. I hope. Anyways, moving on from there, we have the Red Cathedral Contractors, an expansion from Devon Games for the Red Cathedral. A Devon Games game that I have not had a chance to dive into just yet. Then we have from there King's Dilemma, the Queen's Dilemma more specifically. Queen's Dilemma is going to be the sequel to the King's Dilemma. This is going to be coming to Kickstarter shortly, again from Horrible Guild actually, and that's coming, I think it's from Horrible Guild if I'm not mistaken. Yep, Horrible Guild over there. Coming to Kickstarter very shortly. They announced the date, and that will be, well, soon. Lastly, I don't know if it's lastly, it might be lastly, we have Board Game Geek news for Stellarion. We have 2 more actually. We have Board Game Geek news for Stellarion. Stellarion is going to be joining the Oniverse universe. Now, Stellarion is the newest one coming. It's being with the company Impatience. Now, let's give some context. The Oniverse is a series of solo games that are really well loved, or at least well loved by myself and many others. They have 5 games in the series, a 6th one, I can't remember what name it was. They have a 6th one that is somewhere in here, not Arion, not Onirim, Sylveon, I don't know which one it is. There's one over here that I don't remember what it is, but Urbion. Urbion is the one that never made its way into the new lineup. So there's 1 game from the original series, there's 5 from Z-Man Games, and then we have Stellarion now from Impatience, and all the prior ones will be brought in-house to Impatience, which is Shady Torby's new company that he's bringing his games under his own line. I'm very excited for this. Apparently he's doing more than just solo games, but I'm just excited for another Oniverse game because I really enjoy them, and I'm excited for Urbion joining the cast and crew because I have 5 of those games, and it's one of the few series where I actually have all the games. Granted, I like some of them more than others, but I enjoy all of them as the different solo puzzles they provide. Very excited for Stellarion and Urbion from Shady Torby. And then we have, this one didn't even pop up, we have Azul Master Chocolatier. Let's pull that up. This is Azul's new game, Master Chocolatier. It's basically Azul, which is my favorite implementation of the Azul series, at least so far. I have not played Queen's Garden, but the rest of them I have, from the other 3 that I've played, what are they called? It's Summer Pavilion, it's Stained Glass of Sintra, and then regular Azul. Azul is my favorite from those 3, and they're coming out with a Master Chocolatier version. No, that's not chocolate, that is just chocolate themed, and I like chocolate themed, and so I don't know if I like it more than the Stained Glass or not. I'll probably pick it up. I'll probably keep this one. My wife does like chocolate themed games, and the only other chocolate themed game we have, that's not true, we have Chocolate Factory 2, which I really should play. But I have Chocolatopoly as well, which we don't play, and I'm fine not playing that. But that's going to be Azul, Master Chocolatier. And then finally, before we wrap this up over here, finally, not the video, just the news segment, like I told you, there's a lot over here. We have Blaseball, the card game, coming from Wayfinder Games. I'm fascinated by this, and also almost certainly will not be getting it. I'm just fascinated. Blaseball, if you don't know, highly recommend a video that actually features Quinn from Shut Up and Sit Down. If you don't know, he kind of has a hand in 2 different channels, and so he does a whole video game segment kind of thing. I'll link that down below if I remember. But basically, he has a full docu-series on Blaseball. It is like any Shut Up and Sit Down video, immensely entertaining. He does a phenomenal job breaking everything down, great content, and made me watch for 25 minutes on something that I didn't know or care about beforehand. Now I know about it and care about it, but still not actually going to involve myself in it, and I don't see how that manages to manifest in an actual physical game. If you watch the video, you'll know what I'm talking about. And that is going to be our news of the week, which means it's time to dive into normally the topic of the week, but in this case, not the topic of the week, because the topic of the week is going to be saved for the end so you can watch without spoilers. Topic of the week this week is going to be me talking about why Batman and Spider-Man No Way Home both did not work for me. So you can wait till the end so that there's no spoilers. I will pause with a nice brief little lull, and then you can watch all the reasons why. And one of two things. Either you're like, yeah, finally, someone else who gets it, or you're like, wow, Alex just likes being the cool, anti-hype kid on the block. I do, sometimes, but that's not really the reason. I just didn't like the movies. In any case, that'll be down below. Timestamps as usual if you want to jump straight to it. With that, let's go ahead and go into the week in review, starting off as usual with the games I played. Now, I did get my games all logged. Let's go ahead and find them all. Let's go fly a kite up to the highest. Okay, starting off the bat with Burncycle. Got more plays of Burncycle in. Burncycle continues to be a great game. Hope to be diving into it again this week with on TTS. We'll see what happens there. Then we have more Burncycle. No, that's the same. No, more Burncycle. Then we have Skyrise. Skyrise is actually over here. This is from Roxley Games. It's a re-implementation of Metropolis, and I've already had a chance to dive into this one. I'll be diving into it again, which is why it's on the table. I really liked it. I remember liking Metropolis, but I also didn't keep it, although I'm not sure if that's because of the game or because I got Metropolis when I first got into gaming and only played games 2-player, and Metropolis is not a great 2-player game. Regardless of the reason, this game basically takes the core formula of Metropolis and adds to it. They really did a solid Roxley job, both in the quality of the production as well as the gameplay tweaks. Spoiler to my review, but I like it. It's a solid game. We have Ankh Gods of Egypt. Had a chance to dive back into that one. Still not with the Pharaoh's expansion. I really need to dive into the Pharaoh's expansion. I need to make it happen. We have El Grande Big Box. This is one of those games that I love diving into again and again. El Grande last year, for those who follow my top 100, El Grande saw a big shooting up from the prior year, and it's going to see another shoot up this year. I can only imagine it will. Every time I play El Grande, I'm reminded why I like it so much. It's such a good, solid, clean, easy to teach. I taught El Grande in 4 minutes. For the first time, I was teaching it to somebody new, somebody who never played it before. I literally set a timer. I taught it them in 4 minutes. That's what it was. The game gives you so much strategy and depth for 4 minutes. Solid game. Planet Unknown, dove into it again just because it's fun, no other reason. Cyberpunk 2077. Cyberpunk 2077. That's the one. From Command Games, their newest upcoming Kickstarter. I will have a first impressions video on it at some point with nothing on the table because all I have is a online TTS thingy, but I will bring you a first impressions at some point before the campaign launches. I'm holding off for 2 reasons. 1, I don't know if I'm allowed to yet, and 2, because I hope to dive into it again before filming that video. So we'll see what happens there. Either way, I will have it. I just depends on whether I get another play under my belt. Then Paris, La Cité de Lumière. Paris, I got a few more plays of Paris in, introduced it to a new friend. Such a good game. He loved it as well. We got a few games in. It's really good. From Devon Games, I love it. The expansion adds more variety. Really good game. I will happily pick up any expansions they make, although I still need to write on the actual cards what the abilities are. I hate checking the rulebook again and again. Crokinole. Got some plays of Crokinole in. Why? Because Crokinole is awesome. That's why. Xena Legends of a Drift System. I did table that one last week, as I hoped I would. I never remember what I put on the table. Some of them I get played, some of them I don't. They're always games I'm trying to play that week. Zia did get played. A solid game. It hadn't played it in like 8 years, I think, roughly. No. 2014. I got it probably 2014, 2015. 7 or 8 years since I played it last. Such a good game. Such a good game. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I'm playing it again tomorrow night, so I probably should have put Zia on the table. It's an amazing experience. I'm going to be diving into it again tomorrow night, and then from there, I might break open the expansion content. I'll probably put out a review soon, probably get a few plays in the regular base. I played it years ago, for context. This is me diving back in, and I'll probably get a few plays in, get a review in, and then give myself time to enjoy the expansion content and review that down the road. I don't want to rush it. I don't want to go full all in on all the stuff. I want to properly experience and enjoy that game. We have Isle of Skye from Chieftain to King, playing it with the Journeyman expansion. I think it's called the Journeyman, if I'm not mistaken. I played with the Journeyman expansion. The Journeyman expansion is both fiddly, but also adds to the experience. So I'm kind of torn in it. I liked what it added. I kind of want to play with it again, as opposed to not playing with it again, but it is a little fiddly, so I'm a little torn in that one, but still liked it. Kawaii, got in a bunch of games of Kawaii, little ice cream game from Helvetic Games. Fun little game, nothing amazing to say about it. It's a fun little speed-based ice cream game, very family-focused. I'm never going to play it with anyone who's not like a kid, basically, or Gateway Gaming. We have Sniper Elite, the board game, got one of a bunch of plays. We'll get to them shortly, but Sniper Elite, the board game, really solid, but you can watch my review. It'll be coming next week, so I'll go into more in there. Pros and cons. But that basically is a hidden movement game based from Rebellion Unplugged, and it's based on the video game. We have Now or Never from Red Raven Games. I got a play of Now or Never in. I don't know when the review will be coming in that one because it wasn't my copy, it was Cracklow's copy, and I want to get a bunch more plays before I actually review it, so I'll either have to pick up a copy myself or borrow their copy enough times. I like Now Whatever. Solid game. Not perfect, but my favorite, not perfect to me, but my favorite Red Ravens game to date. So, I mean, Sleeping Gods I liked, but Sleeping Gods is a little bit more story-based, and I tend to like more mechanics-based, and Now Whatever kind of gives you both. I really enjoyed that one. Wolfenstein the board game. Got to play Wolfenstein the board game. That is the game from Arkane Studios. Had an unboxing on Friday. You can check that out. But Wolfenstein the board game, got in a few plays of that one. We'll come back to them in a second. We have Union Stockyards. Dove into Union Stockyards. That one I know I did. I had a review go up this past week. You can check that out. Foundations of Rome. I dove into Foundations of Rome solo to get another play of that in. Basically, I wanted to round out my coverage because I will have a review coming up, I think later today, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's later today. So, if it's later today, I think so. I think it's later today. Either way, Foundations of Rome, I got a solo play of that. We have The Breach from Ludus Magnus Studios, gotten a first play of that with Quackalope. Gotten Wolfenstein the board game, another play of that. Sniper Elite, another play of that. We have Bark Avenue, which I believe is another review we have coming up. Then we have Sniper Elite. We have Forsaken. Forsaken is an upcoming Kickstarter. I don't know exactly when. We'll talk about that one more when it gets closer. And then we have Bark Avenue and Union Stockyards, and I think that is it unless I'm missing anything. I always worry about the things I'm missing. I always know I'm missing things, but whatever it is, in any case, let's go ahead and dive into this. So, that's what I played. Long section on what I played. Moving into the weekend review. Starting off with last week. Last week was Saturday. We had a review for Artemis Project and expansions. Short version is the Artemis Project was a 3 out of 5, a 3.5 out of 5 for me, and the expansion brought it to a 4 out of 5. I really like the expansion, specifically the satellites. It adds more nuance to the game. Solid game. I'm very intrigued. It is my first time diving into both of them, meaning I got a single play of the base game in without the expansion, and then dove into it with the expansion to get a few plays in there. I like what the expansion adds. It just adds more to a game that is good, but was on the more side of, like, it's good, but do I need it kind of category beforehand. We have later on Saturday a review for Burncycle. That is one that I went on an interesting journey on. Burncycle is a game that I've played it a lot since the original Kickstarter came out in Tabletopia, and then Tabletop Simulator, and then since then, when I got it, dove into it multiple player accounts, multiple ways, getting a solo play in, then getting in plays with Jesse and Quackalope, then getting in 3-player games, then going back to solo. It's an interesting journey for me, and I actually broke up my rating on that one based on the player count. At 3, it's a 3.5. 3 players, it's a 3.5 for me. At 2 players, it's a 4 for me. And solo, it's a 4.5. I like Burncycle a lot. Not as much as Too Many Bones, but I like it a lot. But for me, solo is the preferred way to play. I like it significantly more playing it solo. I'll still be diving into it more, but my opinion definitely fluctuated a lot on those plays. Then we have Sunday. Sunday we had IV Games top 10 games of all time, technically the top 14 because they also threw in their own 4 games, which granted a few people had a problem with, which also Austin and I knew that people would have a problem with it. I got one question on it, which I thought was a fair question, basically saying, hey, you're being very chummy with IV Games, are you reviewing their games in the future? And I was like, first of all, I replied, and again, it was a fair comment, nothing wrong with the comment, but I replied that if you check out my Moonacres review from, like, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, in the Moonacres review, I gave the disclaimer that I am friendly with IV Games. The publisher industry is already messy because I'm friendly with a lot of publishers out there. I would say I am more friendly with Austin. I would call Austin my friend as opposed to saying I'm friendly. So that's a extra line where I felt the disclaimer was necessary. But in my Moonacres coverage, I put that review, I put the disclaimer, hey, I'm friends with IV Games, keep that in mind. Also, I said that it's a good game, but one that I wouldn't keep, but I'm keeping it for now because of the expansion that's coming up that hopefully improves it. So, I mean, I'm not saying bias doesn't exist. Bias absolutely exists, but it's a messed up review for someone who's biased towards, well, the bias is there. It's overcoming and being mindful of the bias. And then someone else pointed out as well that in the video, right next to Austin on camera, we're talking about the new Moonacres expansions, and I'm like, 2 of them I really liked, 3rd one didn't really do it for me. So, again, bias exists. I'll disclaim it and try to overcome it and be mindful of it. That's all I can really do. Or I could not cover their games at all, but I don't want to do that, and I'm not going to not do that. I'll just disclaim. But anyways, that was IV Games Top 10. Additionally, on Sunday, over on Patreon, I had a solo gameplay of Oltree. Speaking of Oltree, in general, I'll be doing solo playthroughs over on Patreon probably every Sunday. They're specifically on Patreon for a few reasons. One, I like having Patreon exclusive content, and now I'm up to 3 videos a week over on Patreon. And then secondly is because I don't know where to put these videos otherwise. The main channel already has like 14 videos a week at this point. There's only so much I can realistically do. It might be 13. I think it might be 13 videos a week. Yeah, I think we're up to 13 videos a week on the main channel when you add it all up. And that's just a lot. That is a lot of videos. I can't keep stuffing the main channel with videos. I have to be mindful of not over spamming people. And I don't want to start a third channel. So I already have Quack & Co., which you may or may not know about yet, but it exists. But I can't stuff another channel out there just yet. So for right now, the Patreon only. At some point, if I find myself doing more solo playthroughs, or if there's enough demand, maybe I'll start a separate channel. I don't know. It's just I just don't want to flood this channel with too much content. It already feels like it's on the cusp of it. In any case, that is Sunday. Monday was to back or not to back, going over all the Kickstarters. Nothing overly compelling, a few things I'm backing, nothing overly that catch my attention. It was a lighter week, and next week's even lighter if I'm not mistaken. Then on Tuesday as usual, we had 3 videos. We had a video for QE Commodities. It's an expansion to QE. It's an interesting expansion in the sense that I think it makes QE more strategic. And I think it's a good expansion to have, especially if you like QE. But also, if you like playing QE more to the chaotic side, it kind of adds rules, maintenance, and of course the cost of the expansion, while making the game not necessarily worse or better on the chaotic side. If you're leaning into QE for the strategy, I think it's a great expansion, pick it up. If you just like playing QE for the chaos and the madness, and you don't want to spend the extra money on the expansion, I think you could safely pass on it. That was QE Commodities. Then later on Tuesday we had followed up with Union Stockyard. Union Stockyard was a good game. Well, before we get to that, there's an issue with the theme, which I didn't think about it. There's a disclaimer in the thingy. This is one of those things where every theme potentially has problematic aspects. And whenever this comes up, you're immediately going to divide everyone into 2 camps. There's going to be the people who are like, how dare that theme exist? And there's going to be the people who are like, oh my gosh, those woke everything. I can't believe them. Just let board games be board games. And honestly, I would say that as long as you're treating anyone on the other side disrespectfully, you're already wrong. I don't really care what your stance is. It's entirely reasonable to have the stance that you don't like the theme, you don't want the theme. Unfortunately, most comments, not all, most comments that I've seen regarding that in the Kickstarter, not only on my video so much, but in the Kickstarter towards the creator, were fairly toxic comments that were attacking in nature, which means I just assume you're wrong at that point. Because if you can't deliver your critique without being respectful to the other person, I assume you're part of the problem. And the reverse is true as well, by the way. I think it's entirely reasonable to kind of want to just let board games be board games and to start bringing up those follow-up questions of, well, you have a problem with immigrants and being utilized in the stockyards, then do you have a problem with all the war games and the this and the that? It's entirely reasonable, I think, to bring up or to feel that kind of everything is under attack. But it's the same kind of aspect. If you can't communicate respectfully, if you resort to woke everything, if you just resort to name-calling and attacking, then you're part of the problem. I am not personally bothered by the theme of Union Stockyards. I also recognize that there are many things in life that I'm not personally bothered by that might be a problem. I'm not prepared to pass judgment on that without, well, in general, I'm not prepared to pass judgment, but for sure not without significantly more research. What I will say is treat others respectfully. That should be a good starting point to any conversation. Going back to Union Stockyards is a game. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoyed it a lot in terms of the way things interact and the way everything's fairly smooth and works well. On the other hand, it's a game that didn't really give me wow moments. It's just a solid game. It does a solid job. I felt the theme was fairly bland, the art was fairly bland, and the game was good. And it's a balance. I just don't need good games. So 3.5 out of 5, a good game if you're looking for that kind of thing, not the game that I need to add to my collection. Then lastly on Tuesday, we had Merlin Big Box. Merlin Big Box was a tough one. I really like Merlin. I gave it a 4 out of 5, specifically with expansions added in, not just the base game alone, with the caveat that I do feel that it's a hard game to table. I feel there's a lot of stuff that you have to teach. The core concept of the game, very easy to teach. All the iconography and how every expansion adds in and changes things, there's just a lot of work to teach the game. This is a game that, when I'm teaching it with the expansions to people, it's roughly 45 minutes for the teach. And I think Merlin is very good, but there are other games that Stefan Feld has that I like better, that are better games, that require less teaching work, which is why I both gave Merlin a 4, and it's leaving my collection. I think it's really good, and I'm going to miss it. But I will be consoled with in the Oracle of Delphi, Castle of Burgundy, Bruges, and many other Stefan Feld games. But Merlin is good. It's a good game. It's a weird balance. It's always hard reviewing games that you love that you're not keeping because there's other games that do it better. I always feel conflicted when that happens, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Then, on Wednesday was the live streams. First of all, we had a live stream on Wednesday. If you missed the pattern, at this point I'm aiming for a live stream every single Wednesday. We'll see if I can keep it up. This one's a little different. I was ranking 2016 games, basically. I was going over, I had someone in the audience just basically shout out a year, and then I just went over the games from 2016, which include Terraforming Mars, which is an absolutely fantastic game. Then later on Wednesday, I had the board game crowdfunding, what I backed with my wife, going over the games we backed in April, and the 2 she's making me back in addition to the ones I backed. But that was going over the usual thing. And by the way, all of you are way too polite. That video had a complete editing error where when I had the picture-in-picture, meaning when my wife and I are in the bottom corner off to the side, at some points, at many points, it was there when it shouldn't have been. We completely screwed it up. We completely accidentally just had it there the entire time, and no one said a word. Like, not a single comment called out, hey, you screwed up on the editing, Alex, and it's there. So, y'all are way too nice. Anyways, moving on to Thursday. Thursday was, I still have not figured out the title of this, I still haven't, but whatever the title is, basically my history, my backstory, part 1 of, I think 4, but I'm not actually calling it part 1 of 4 because I don't know how many there will be, but it's basically just going into my backstory of how I got from growing up all the way to where I am now. All the different paths and divergent traces along the way. This was part 1. It takes me from childhood up until marriage, and then from there we continue, and we will continue whenever the next part goes up. Then on Friday we had Twilight Struggle versus Watergate. It's a play this, not that, of Twilight Struggle versus Watergate. Anyone who's a fan of Twilight Struggle, I apologize in advance. It was a little bit snarky with intent because of how people didn't like. I don't know. I'm a bit of a troll. I am a bit of a troll. I like poking things. Going back to like that video with Devon, I like poking things that I like. And sometimes I think people take things a little too seriously, and then sometimes I poke at that thing because you took it a bit too seriously. This is not that different than like Tom Vassell with his component drops. Remember his component drops where he just like dumped the games on the table where like people would be cringing, and then he kept doing it because people were cringing, and it led to like this little cycle of violence towards board game pieces. But anyways, Twilight Struggle versus Watergate, it is a genuine play that's not that. The part that's snarky is we intentionally just sit there and play Watergate the entire time we're talking. We're having an active game of Watergate while we talk about the pros and cons of the game, and Watergate won hands down. And that does mean, according to some people on the internet, can't believe you lost all credibility, or this or that, or look at that, more board game reviewers in 2022 willing to put egg on their face with their ignorance of whatever. Listen, I've played Twilight Struggle at least 10 times by now. At least 10 times. And it might be that you need more. Might be you need 15 plays. Or you just need to be more of a clever individual or this or that. I'm not saying Twilight Struggle isn't amazing. I'm saying I don't appreciate the nuance. I think there are better games out there. But that's just me. You might feel differently. And that's okay. Anyways, that was Friday. And then later on Friday we had Wolfenstein, the board game, unboxing of it, just basically that. That was actually a film like last week already. I just a balance of trying to get different unboxings out. I have too many games to unbox, and I don't like doing more than one unboxing a week if I can avoid it. So for right now, that's Wolfenstein, the board game. You can check that one out. From there we have today. Today we have a few things going up. We have 2 reviews, a review for Bark Avenue, that'll be going up later today, and then a review for Foundations of Rome. Both solid games. You can check out the coverage on those. Really like Foundations of Rome. Bark Avenue is good, but I don't know why I'm telling you about my reviews. I usually don't tell you about them. I usually talk about them next week, and you can watch them today. But that's that, and then we have next week. Next week we have a few things. We're going to have top 10 Desert Island games. I'm curious if you even know what that means. Like when I say top 10 Desert Island games, what does that mean to you? Because that's what's coming next week. I don't know what I'm titling the video, though, because it kind of depends on if that's an inherent term that's known. I'll have a review as well for Sniper Elite, probably a review for Wolfenstein. I'll throw this both up the same game, so you have like 2 Nazi-themed games the same day. Why not? Get it out of the way. But we'll see what happens there. And that's basically as far as the next week stuff. Which brings us to the game on the table, and then the topic of the week. Games on the table. We have the Guild of Merchant Explorers. Hope to dive into this one from AEG. And when I say hope, I really, really hope, because it's set up on the table upstairs. So I really hope it's, dived into, because otherwise I'm going to have to clean it up without even having played it. We have Dice Theme Park over here. That's this one over here. This one actually has the box with it. From Alley Cat Games, hope to dive into this one as well. Designed by Daryl Andrews, a kind of next step game from Dice Hospital. Very intrigued, very curious to see how this one plays. Looks cute, looks cool. Might be a little light, might not be. I don't know. We'll find out. Then we have Skyrise. I really want to dive into this one again. I really enjoyed it. One play of it so far, but I really, really enjoyed that one play. And it's just, again, it's just Metropolis, but better. Hope to dive into this one. And then Spirit Island. Speaking of solo plays over on Patreon, right now I'm having patrons vote on what game shows up in the solo play cycle. Although I have to figure out what to do, because there's still more games that I plan on getting played solo. So I'll have to figure out how to make it. Maybe I'll have to do 2 a week. I don't know. But in any case, we have Spirit Island was their voted on solo game, which means I'll finally be diving into Spirit Island solo. I'm going to start off with the base game, and then from there I'll do a few with the expansions as well, because I really could use the excuse to dive into Spirit Island with the expansions. And with that, let's go ahead and say thank you for being here. Appreciate all of you. Have a great week, a relaxing weekend, and have a good one. Topic of the week is still coming. I'm just going to give it a second. I'm I'm going to give everyone all the time in the world to click away, and I'll see what message I got. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so that was Jesse. I'm just telling him I'm not making it over there tonight. Got more stuff to do, and I think that's that. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into the topic of the week. Topic of the week is Batman and Spider-Man No Way Home. Let's start off with Batman. I did not like the Batman. Like, I feel that I gave it 3 hours of my life, and then I at an hour and a half in, I kind of felt like I made the wrong choice, but at that point I felt it was worth another hour and a half to finish it. It wasn't. I mean, I guess it was, because I always would have wanted to know, and then maybe I would have wondered. But in hindsight, it wasn't. In hindsight, I wish I could have that time back. Batman is... And for context, start off with the baseline. I am not someone who had a problem with... what's his name? Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson, when he was announced for the cast of Batman, when he was casted as Batman, I had no problem with it. I tend to be one of those people. Same with Ben Affleck, by the way. Whenever they announce somebody for a role and people are like throwing up their hands, I'm like, hey, someone at the studio thought it was a good idea. They probably thought that there might be backlash. They're not usually stupid, although maybe they are. I don't actually know. And so, I mean, like, we're talking about, like, Twilight guy. Twilight guy, Sparkles, McSparkles. I'm not saying that myself diminished. I don't feel that way myself. I actually like Twilight. I'm just saying, like, that's the internet outrage. Like, Sparkles McSparkly becomes Batman. Like, how can we believe that? But I was cool with it. I was totally cool with it. I said, let's see what happens. And then the world loved Batman. Like, the reviews came in, people really, really liked it. Granted, I saw a lot of notes saying, hey, it's Batman, but it's more of like a Seven style movie with Batman. And I was like, that's fine, I like Seven. I did. I didn't like Batman. For one thing, it's 3 hours long. It asked me to commit 3 hours to a very slow-moving, very dark, like the whole thing thematically is very just dark. Like, literally, just literal dark. Not like a dark overtone, just literal darkness to the movie. Then we have Robert Pattinson playing one note the entire time. And I like Robert Pattinson as an actor. I think he has phenomenal breath, not phenomenal necessarily, but he has very solid breath as an actor. I think he does a good job. And it feels like they took that movie and said, hey, remember, your co-star from Twilight and how she played one note of moody and intense the entire 4 movies? Why don't you take that one note and apply it here just with some, like, goth black eye makeup as well? I thought he played one note. He played it well, but it was one note the entire time. No nuance or anything else at all. I felt the weird romantic notes between him and Catwoman felt completely off and forced. They felt manufactured. They did not feel in any way like they worked. Penguin, acting was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, but also completely underutilized in terms of his role in the movie, setting himself up for the future, sure, but for this movie, kind of felt wasted. I like Alfred, but Alfred had minimal screen time and minimal impact on the characters, just kind of went boom, and so that happened. I did not like Gordon. I did not like Gordon at all. He's multiple times during the movie when something horrific happens, he's like, oh, that's really, really bad. Oh my gosh, that's bad. Like, when he should be freaking out or having some degree of actual nuance. Like, at one point, he, like, emails private files from his server, like, some virus triggers, and his personal email sends out all this, like, stuff to the press and all that. He's like, well, that just came from my email. I'm gonna get in hot water at work for that one. Like, he has this, like, moody intensity that feels like he's trying to project moody intensity and feels like he does so at the cost of any genuine emotion that would be behind it at all. I felt it was horribly done. So the acting was a mixed bag to me. It was a mix of one-note characters done well, some acting that was done poorly, some acting that was done well but then underutilized. There was a mixed bag for me in the acting. The story felt completely, like... I mean, the whole thing with the Riddler, the amount of flaws with the Riddler's logic and the way the whole thing plays out. I mean, first of all, watch Pitch Meeting. Always watch Pitch Meeting for any movie. It's usually entertaining, but this one just bothered me because it was accurate. The notes it hit as far as how Batman works, or more specifically didn't work, how it's all manufactured to just make the story happen. I mean, really, really felt that way. Everything just felt so off. I will give it credit. They did a good job of portraying Batman as a detective and not just a beat-em-up kind of guy. But past that... Like, that part they did well. I will give them that. Again, some of the acting was great. But, like, just the rest of it just felt dark, unnecessarily dark, inconsistently acted. Lots of plot holes and weirdness and things just don't really line up. No investment in the romance. I didn't like Batman. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to add there. I just didn't like Batman. Time to go ahead and hit on Spider-Man. Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, Spider-Man No Way Home is different. And again, let's do a little pause for spoilers, in case you need a breather. I'm about to have spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home, so click away in case you don't want that. Spider-Man No Way Home, I enjoyed. I would watch that again. Batman, I will never watch again. Never. Like, ever, ever. I like Batfleck, by the way. I even like Batfleck. I had no complaints about Batfleck. Some things are a little over the top, but I enjoyed it. This Batman, didn't enjoy, didn't like. And I like Robin Pattinson, I like Batfleck, I like Batman, like all the other things. Didn't work for me. Will I watch the sequel? That's an interesting question. Will I watch the sequel? I imagine there will be a sequel. The movie did well. By all accounts, I should not watch the sequel. I think I'm going to feel compelled to despite myself, but that feels like a mistake. Maybe I'll watch it in the background. I'll put it on in the background. I will not give it dedicated screen time. Whatever. If I can watch 4.5 hours of Quacklope talking to Devon about his Kickstarters, I can throw this on in the background too. Actually, that's not a fair comparison. Quacklope talking about Kickstarters was immensely entertaining. That was much better. Anyways, moving on to Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home is a movie that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I hated the storyline. Hated the storyline. The storyline of Spider-Man No Way Home comes down to this, okay? Spider-Man says, hey, you know, Mr. Adult Superhero who knows about all the dangers of the universe and have brought these people in and have trapped them because they're going to kill everyone, let's go ahead and just, you know, not do that. Let's go ahead and release them because I know better, which is age-appropriate behavior for a kid, for a teenager. Spider-Man is a teenager after all. My problem with it, and by the way, the fact that I'm, like, intense about these things, I don't care. These are not problems in life. I like being intense about conversations because I like being passionate about things that I care about. It doesn't actually negatively affect my life. I'm in a very, very happy state of mood and anything. I'm going to play Spirit Island this week and Skyrise this week. So I'm going to continue being intense for the purpose of this conversation. Just understand my quality of life is not negatively affected by these videos. No Way Home. Spider-Man is being age-appropriate for a teenager, and he is acting like he knows better than the adults. You know the problem with that? While it is age-appropriate, first of all, it undoes all the character progression he's made since the first movie. That behavior is the kind of thing we were supposed to see from Spider-Man in the first movie, when Tony Stark was trying to educate him and bring him up, and hey, you're a superhero and you need to be responsible and all those things. And then we see that character progression across multiple movies, dedicated movies as well as his piece in other movies, and he has that character progression. And then we get to No Way Home, and he goes straight back to the same ignorant, stupid kid who thinks he knows better than the adults and doesn't. And he gets Aunt May killed. You know what he gets for this whole thing? Nothing. He gets Aunt May killed. He gets a whole bunch of people. You know how many people died in that apartment building? Sure, they only show us Aunt May, but you and I both know that tons of people died from Peter Parker's stupid decision as far as what he should or shouldn't do regarding these villains. And you know what the end game of these villains is? These villains, they're all being snapped back right before they died, right? So he changes their persona. Now they're going to change. Aren't they being snapped back to right before they die? Did I miss something? Is something happening differently? They're being snapped back at the moment of death. What exactly changed? As far as I can see, nothing. As far as I can see, he completely undid the entire point of anything, just destroyed the multiverse, the fabric of reality, because he knows better. He's literally in a fight with Doctor Strange. This is not a singular moment of impulse. Doctor Strange goes after him. They enter the Mirrorverse, whatever it is. They enter the mirror dimension, and they have this fight. And Peter Parker, first of all, in a moment of just absolute insanity, gets the whole web spirally thing and takes down Doctor Strange, which really throws a whole wrench into the idea of Doctor Strange being some super powerful dimensional being trapped by the teenager. But the teenager gets his way. The teenager has what he wants. We haven't even talked about the fact that Electro doesn't know who Spider-Man is. Can you tell me in what movie Electro knows who Peter Parker is? Because the whole point is the villains come into the scene that know who Peter Parker is, and Electro did not, if I'm not mistaken. And then combined with that, the fact that pulling in the other Spider-Man, while it's great for that fan service, and while I appreciate for the fan service, I thought it was underutilized. It didn't really work well. It was kind of just like throwing a bunch of Spider-Man together that admittedly I thought was entertaining. Can we talk about the fact that the two Peter Parkers working together, by the way, they came up with a cure for schizophrenia, or bipolar, or whatever the Green Goblin has? I'm very, very happy to see that two teenagers working in a lab cure schizophrenia. Let's go ahead and see, again, whatever the issue he has, let's go ahead and see them roll that out to the rest of the universe. It just feels ham-handed in the entire way the movie is put together. Was it enjoyable? Absolutely it was. Did it 100% solidify for me? Because I've been on this debate for a while whether I prefer Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. I mean, not Tobey Maguire. That's a blatant lie. I do not like Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. I've been on the fence for a while whether I prefer Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland for a while. And this movie solidified for me that Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man, no question whatsoever. The best Spider-Man. I love Zendaya, MJ, solid character. Also love, what's her name who dies? Emma Stone, who plays Gwen Stacy. Also love her. But Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man. They better bring him back. I cannot wait to see more Andrew Garfield. Tom Holland supposedly will grow up, but I'll never trust it again. Because apparently when they have multiple movies full of character progression, they can undo all of that for the sake of having all the superhero villains just go boom and escape and all that stuff. It was good for laughs. It was an enjoyable movie. I will happily watch it again. But I will happily watch it again knowing that I hated the story. I just love the banter, the interplay, the characters, all that stuff. It had all the classic things in a Marvel movie that I like, but the story really let me down. Maybe it's just because I'm a father, I'm an adult, and I have kids who... And so watching this happen just felt... It felt almost hurtful to like watch that degree of irresponsibility. Like, I get it. Teenagers screw up. We're talking about absolute villains who are going to go on a murdering rampage and do. There's no way in any of this conversation that Peter Parker shouldn't be, like, locked up. He should be locked up. He should be have his suit taken away from him. He has proven how irresponsible he is to the degree of murdering multiple people and not even having a proper redemption arc because all these people go snap and die. I do not see a way around that. Whatever. Anyways, so that's basically my opinion on the Batman and Spider-Man No Way Home. I'll let you know how Doctor Strange is when I actually get around to watching it. I don't watch them in theaters that much. I just watch them at home because I have a big screen projector and I like to have my date night Chinese food with my wife sitting down on the couch and enjoying a movie together. Also, in the case of Spider-Man No Way Home, we watched it with 2 other parents who were equally as disturbed by all the teenage drama going on. So it was great watching it with people who were equally as perturbed by it because we were all like, just like, this is a terrible story. It's a good, fun movie, but terrible story. It makes it better. Because the one thing that's really sad is it is sad when you tank an experience with someone else. Like, I watched The Batman with somebody else, and I think I may have brought it down a notch for him because I clearly was not into it. My wife clearly was not into it, and they were, like, middle of the road, so they might have been more into it watching it with somebody else. And that has been an entirely way too long week in review. Holy schmelz. What time is it? 12:07. Yay. I gotta get things done. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you have a good one.